Content warning. The following program contains a host that chain smokes like a train. Sometimes discussions of fictitious violence, potty mouth language, and of course, things that make people feel attacked, but I want you to know that we're not attacking. We just may see you. Yeah, that's the way to put it. What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing out there? What's up? What's up? What's up? All right, that's enough of my thing. All right, cool. Slow down the smoking. Oh my god, you guys, especially you guys over there on YouTube. Gotta love you guys. Really. Potty mouth might not be dangerous to my health, but it is very dangerous to the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, how you guys doing out there? What's going on? I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying hello and welcome to the dark side of the room. That's right, this is our show, our particular show, where we talk about stuff involving games and life and nerd stuff, because we are just a bunch of nerds doing all that stuff. Major shout outs to Nerd Soul, NERDSOUL. You are missed, not just because I miss being on your show, but I miss that you move so far away, man. You're so far. I can't be like, hey, you want to get together? Go get a cup of coffee? Not that I ever did that when you lived in LA, but still, now that I can't, it's a big thing. Oh, man. So, thank you guys for showing up. What is going on? Major shouts out to my people in the chat here on Twitch, like Xanathades and Ash. Is that Ashley High or Ash Lady or Ashley and of course, Commander Root, Drap Snatch, or Draps Nat, is Nickable. And everybody out there that I might be missing and all that jazz. I still haven't replaced this computer screen right here, so in order to interact with you guys, I gotta go that way and all that back and forth. But know that I'm engaged, and I'm happy that you too are engaged. So, let's get on with the show, all that other stuff. If you guys want to say what's up and all that stuff outside of here, it's really simple. Well, thank you very much. I can tell that you are Generation X, Xanathade, because anybody younger than me in North America is like, don't do it, you don't look cool anymore, you just look stupid. And I'm like, dude, I watch YouTube channels where people smoke the marijuana. But anyway, like on screen, it's just it's a thing. But anyhow, what is going on, everybody? So you guys got any questions, comments, compliments, advice? Actually, relax on the advice, but questions, comments, compliments, praise, or questions about the things that we have for sale? Well, that's very easy. All you got to do is pull up your keyboard and type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also hit us up over on Twitter and on Instagram and all that other stuff. You can also reach out to us on the TikToks. Yep, we're trying to get into those tickety-tockety things. And of course, reach out on Deckers on the book. All right. That is if you were part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, or, kicking around out there in the metaverse, as, people want the kids to call it, but nobody is going, nobody really wants to call it that because it's a stupid name. But yeah, so, and like I said, if you guys want to know the stuff we got for sale, I mean, we have, we got toys for sale, terrain, t-shirts, hats, all that other stuff. I could show you pictures and all that stuff, but that would take forever. I'm actually working on an online catalog, which will be nice and dandy and great, and everything will be happy. And of course, if you guys also want to, I guess you can say, participate and help us out financially, you can do so a couple of different ways. You can sign up for our Patreon, which is one of the reasons that I haven't been putting a whole lot of stuff on social media, because I have been just designing and printing and prototyping and reworking and all that stuff for our patron giveaways, and rewriting those pages while trying to hold on to a day job and doing all this stuff. I'm juggling a lot of pies here, and make no mistake, the people that you see online, they have teams. They even have editors, and I don't have that stuff. So, you know, thank you. I got to thank my patrons for their patience, and that is really cool. And again, if you guys want to help me out, I just put the PayPal donation link right here in the chat. And of course, if you guys will subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be great. You know, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because sponsorships don't come when you only got 228 subscribers. They're like, please. My grandma has more than 200 subscribers. What are you doing wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. People don't like me. I don't know. I smell funny. That's it. I smell funny on camera, all that jazz. So, with all that, yeah. So, Call of Cthulhu, what is going on? Yeah, cookie recipes. You know what? I might be able to hook you up with that. Just send an email. I'm dead serious, dude. Just send an email to backinthedeck@gmail.com. Like, real talk. Because I used to bake prolifically. Lots and lots of cookies. Although I prefer, hey, what's going on, Jesse? That's going on. Yeah, my little brother, or my older brother. I don't know. It's one of my siblings. But yeah, so thanks for being here and all that stuff. So now that we've got all the opening credits and all that stuff out of the way, because people are like, make it faster. People don't have attention spans. And that is one of the things I'm commenting on today. All right. And like, real talk. Okay. Real talk. We are doing some stuff involving attention spans and things like that. So let's get to it. So today, you guys tuned in. 20% less mispronunciations. All right, very cool, very cool. Yes, it's the Call of Cthulhu. So yeah, real talk. Today, I wanted to talk about teaching. All right. Yeah, teaching is, again, one of the most valuable skill sets that there are out there. It's also one of the most covert skill sets that we have out there. And this is what I mean. If anyone looks up to you in any sort of way, they will do what you do. Okay? So you always have to be careful about what you're teaching them by the way that you behave when you're around them, when they're around, stuff like that. I learned this on two levels. One, I've been around a lot of kids that looked up to me over the course of my life, and a lot of them started doing stuff the way that I did it, and I'm like, no! I'm running at them like, you know, they're walking into a building with a bomb going off, and I'm like, don't be like me, I'm messed up. And as a kid, I found myself doing stuff that the older people around me do, because as I say all the time, culture is what happens when you're not looking. Okay, they're all the little things that we consider normal, or that we grow up learning is normal, until we go somewhere that they're not, you know. And so yeah, it's a really, really difficult thing. But see, that's laying the foundation. All right, the biggest thing about teaching, cooking with Solar Gray. Oh man, you know what? Real talk. Real talk. I might one of these days write a cookbook, but I'm not Google Foods. Although I do like saying, there you go, everybody. It does not get easier than that. And your thing is done. But, over the course of my life, I found myself in teaching positions, be it with martial arts or dance or acting, or games or music or whatever. For some reason, people look at me and they say, you know what? He must know what he's doing. And I'm like, I don't, but I can show you how to look like it. But along the way, I learned some stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'll show you what it is that I do. Just stick around and you'll learn something. But with this job, this company, this business, this is what I do. Real talk, I find myself in a position where I'm teaching all the time. All right, I'm teaching all the time. And there are a couple of things I picked up. Okay, I picked up a couple of things along with my experience in teaching, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Okay. Now we have a lot of things, okay? A lot of stuff that goes down when it comes to teaching. I'm sending this out to a bunch of people that I taught, and a bunch of people that I know are teachers, and I'm hoping that they it's got to be the glasses in it. It really does, which is cool because my entire life I've always wanted to wear glasses, to the point where I used to go like down to the strip mall and get glasses with like fake, like mirror, not mirror glass, but window glass, because I knew I was gonna go blind one day. God, I'm terrible. But anyway, as I was saying, there are things that I've learned from some of the best teachers I have ever had. And I mean from the age of 13 to the age of 38. I've had some amazing teachers. And I want to crack some misconceptions there are about learning, and a lot of misconceptions there are about teaching, okay? I'm sorry to tell you guys, when I was growing up, I used to think that my teachers lived at the school because I was in the second grade, and we all think our teachers live there. And it turns out I was incorrect. My teachers did not live at school, all right? But they may as well have, because teaching requires so much preparation and so much after work. Like, I think I was in the 8th grade at John Adams Gifted High Achieving Foreign Language Magnet, where I spent a lot of time in detention. And I saw that while I was in detention, my teachers were grading papers, going over their lesson plans for the next day, double checking their lesson plans against the syllabus that they had to write, just so much stuff that they were doing. And I'm like, excuse me, math teacher, whose name I'm not going to say because I know I'm on the internet and I'm in a public forum. You say that we need to have an hour's worth of homework. Every one of our teachers does, and that adds up to 6 hours of homework. How are we going to pull that? And she looked at me and she's like, son, I dream of 6 hours of homework because I'm doing 9 as soon as that bell rings at 3. From 3 o'clock to about midnight, I'm still doing my work. And I'm like, dude, you don't make enough money, especially not dealing with our badasses. And she laughed, I laughed, and I got back to doing my homework because I was in detention, and you know, that was the whole thing. And yeah, sorry, that's a wholesome story. It's just one of those things. But I learned a lot from those teachers. And over the course of my life, I've attempted teaching many things. And everyone has a different teaching style. Everyone has a different learning style. But there are some fundamentals that come down, especially when you're trying to teach games. All right. When you are trying to teach games, there are certain things that we do. And for those of you longtime viewers on the show, you've heard me state that not every gamer is a teacher, and teaching is a skill set. And it is. It is a skill set that needs to be cultivated and practiced, like playing the violin, but far more important. And this is coming from a musician, all right? So it's definitely one of those things. There are certain principles that you have to go in with it. Thing number one, and a lot of people are like, stay interesting. No. Forget gimmicks, forget flash and bang and all that stuff. The most important thing when it comes to teaching is to be engaging with the fundamentals, okay? How do you make the simple and most important things important enough to the student for them to pay attention, okay? That is a really big questions. Now, as you guys know, I teach tabletop miniatures games and board games and all this other stuff. Now, what it comes down to is, in order to teach these and stay engaged, the first thing about teaching in the 21st century, about keeping engagement going is very simple in concept, but difficult to pull off. Okay. And the simple thing in concept is to convey to the person that you're teaching that this interaction is not a matter of winning. It's a matter of understanding what the game is at its core. Okay, what is it at its core? What is it that you want to teach them how to do? Okay. Now you'll see 1,000 videos out there saying what every game is, what it's all about, because we use that language. It's all about the role play. It's all about the dice. It's all about the math. It's all about the characters. It's all about. At the same time, they are all incorrect. They are also all correct. It is a strange dialectic, but follow me, okay? Let's take tabletop role-playing games. Some folks love the mathematics. Some folks love the puzzles. Some folks love playing pretend. Some folks just like creating characters, okay? Some folks like dealing with the narratives. And then there are the competitive types that like feeling like they're smarter and more experienced, or like they're better than the person who's teaching them the game. All right. And make no mistake, I come across a lot of these people all the time. This expectation of mastery at the beginning. Okay. It's all about the cones. In truth, each one of these things is a hint as to what the person who wants to learn the thing is interested in learning primarily. Okay. This is really, really important. When I started playing tabletop role-playing games, I didn't care about the dice mechanics. I didn't care about combat. I looked at everything like an improv thing because I am a performer. Am I an entertainer? That's up to you to tell me. Please tell me yes. Please tell me yes. But yeah, am I in the game to slay the dragon? Maybe. Am I there to perform a bunch of songs? Possibly. Am I there to make the most efficient track to victory possible? Maybe. Am I there to play pretend and talk in funny voices? Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes, and I go forward with bold curiosity for the adventure ahead. And sure enough, that was what I excelled at because it's what I enjoyed before I started the game. Every person that you teach will have something that they into. I am not entertained. I am not. I am entertaining. I'm telling you, I'm entertaining. But when it all comes down to it, there was a reason that the person wanted to learn how to play. And a really big important thing to do when it comes to teaching is to put your own ego aside. Okay? It's not about, and this is where a lot of gamers really fall down when they try and teach games. All right? There is a matter of enthusiasm, but overarching all of that is ego and fear. And those things have to be pushed aside. This is why. A hyper-competitive person will be able to teach many things, but the number one thing that they will be able to teach is how to be competitive. Hang on, this is a work call. I'm live at twitch.tv/bid_p. So yeah, ninja pause. Yeah, a person who is hyper competitive will very easily teach a person to be competitive. Okay, but will they teach them the fundamentals? Not nearly as clearly as they will teach them to be competitive. Okay. And this is something that I've seen a lot over my years, okay? And that is a person will try and teach a newcomer a game. However, the person teaching the game will make sure that they win, okay? And I always said that it's like Chuck Norris beating up a white belt. Ooh, I can beat up the person who came to me to learn. Big man. You know, that's not how this stuff goes, guys. All right? When you sit down and teach a game, you have to push everything about how great you are aside and teach them what they need to know to stay interested in whatever it is that they are doing. Okay? I know when I first started learning, a lot of people were teaching me all the mechanics and all of the loopholes and all of that jazz. And you know what it did? It made me not care. It just made me not care. I'm like, I want to play pretend and wear funny hats. And they're like, well, in order to do that, you have to make sure that your charisma stats are really, really high. And then you can blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, can I just wear the funny hat? Can I just wear the funny? I brought the funny hat. It's got a feather in it. I'm putting on the funny hat. Okay. All right. I'm playing a bard. He has a flute. Does he know how to play the flute? No. He uses it as a distraction. That's what he does. Yeah, that's it. And people were like, you're playing wrong. You're doing all this. And it was not fun. It wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun for them. Because none of them knew how to teach, how to interact with them. Okay. And this is a really, really important thing. So when you're sitting down, you have to look at what it is about whatever it is they want to learn that keeps them interested and craft your one-on-one lessons around that. Okay. If a person gets together at D&D or Call of Cthulhu, actually Call of Cthulhu and D&D are on the opposites, but let's say they want to get together and play Dungeons and Dragons. All right. Do they want to do combat or do they want to be a pretty pointed-eared elf? Well, having run games for 8-year-old girls, they didn't care about the stories that I wrote. They didn't care about perception checks or investigation rolls. They wanted to play pretend so that they could be pretty elves. And you know what? It kept them interested and they kept along with it. Now, a couple of those girls are like 14 and they're running games for themselves. And why? Because I didn't pee in their Cheerios. Okay, I didn't tell them through my actions that what they liked about the game was incorrect. Now, I'm not saying cater to them. I'm not saying like coddle them. Okay, it's one of my really big things is, okay, you would like to do this. This is what you would like to know, or this is what you need to know in order to accomplish what you want. It's that simple. And did I expect perfection from them? No, they're children. I can't expect perfection from adults. Let alone people that haven't been alive long enough to practice well enough to get better, let alone perfect. That just doesn't make any sense, you know? So yeah, but the major thing I didn't do was cater to my own ego about feeling like I was good and I knew what I was doing. If a person comes to you to learn, that means you got something that they want. Okay? That means you are good enough. Sorry to tell you. Now, a lot of the times, and I know most of you guys are adults out there, so this is for the adults watching. You've gone to them saying, learn to play this game so that you can play with me. And that is a tough one. Okay, that's a really tough one. Because first you got to convince them what makes the thing cool. And yesterday I talked about how fun is contagious. However, fun is not a singular flavor. All right. I know where I live and what I do with my programs. I have to show people what it is about the stuff that we do that's cool. All right. And sometimes I got to ask them, hey, be willing to learn this and you might just like it. And I'm not going to lie. I live in a competitive environment. Okay. When you grow up in the ghetto, as we called it when I was young, but the hood now, it's all about being the best. You know, it's all about being good. It's all about making fun of people who aren't as good as you. And that does a whole lot of damage to the people who are like that. It's like, I'm just trying to push you to make you better, bruh. And it's like, I don't want to be better. You know, you never thought about that, huh? I don't care about football. And these are the people that are going, I don't care about math, yo. So where do you find that middle ground? You know, and that is where I talk about, you know, finding what they like about it and start there and then gradually drip in the other things. I know a lot of people who they don't care about role-playing games because they're not really into the story. Okay. And I find this with my people a lot because we're real quick to go, nah, I ain't going there. Nah, man. Nah, wouldn't be me. Would not be me. However, tabletop wargaming, oh man. I'm like, this is like the tabletop role-playing game, but it's just the fight. You know, and it's like, oh, well, look at that. Yeah, it's just the fight. All right, cool. You know, we can get in there. We can beat people up. We can leave. I'm like, yes, this is Hero Clicks. Who are your favorite comic book characters? You know, you think Thor can beat Superman? Let's take it to the table. And then they get into it. They see how all the stuff goes. And I know I've got a lot of people hooked when they start asking questions that start with, well, couldn't I just? You know, well, couldn't I just go over here and I'm like, yeah, try it, see what happens, you know, but that is shows of engagement. So let's make this real simple because that is the next point. Keep your lessons simple. All right. Keep them simple. A lot of people have the idea that every game is as easy as Monopoly. And I'm going to break down Monopoly in the shortest of terms and simplest of definitions. Roll the dice, move your piece that many spaces. When you land on something, you either buy it or you read the card. That's the game. That is the essence of doing everything game by game by game by game. That's it. Okay, that's all. When it comes to playing, say, Dungeons and Dragons, I don't care if it's 2nd edition, 3.5, 5th edition, or, you know, whatever it is that you're playing. Yeah, I know, I skipped 4th. You think about stuff that you can do, you say what you want to do, you roll the dice to see whether or not you do it, and the GM tells you whether or not you succeeded. But you got to trust your GM to tell you the truth. That's the game. That's it. That's all. And a lot of people come up with, yeah, you're not the only one, Call of Cthulhu. You really aren't. Sitting up saying, yeah, funny, I wish I'd skipped 4th edition. But I appreciate 4th edition and I liked it for what it was. You know, I didn't look at it as D&D. I looked at it as D&D 4th edition or what it was in 2005. And I thought, you know what, it's fine. You know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You know, wasn't what I was used to, but it wasn't terrible on its own. You know, kind of like The Godfather 3. Wasn't a bad movie, just wasn't a Godfather. Anyway, okay, it was kind of a bad movie. As I was saying, back on the thought train, keep it simple. All right? Keep it simple. You guys have heard me rant and rave about a grimdark future from One Page Rules. And the reason is this. I really want to like Warhammer 40k, but you know what I don't like? Rules bloat. Okay. I too am a student in a lot of things, and real talk, one of the reasons that I'm such a good teacher is that I was a terrible student. And I wasn't a terrible student because I wanted to be a terrible student. There's a lot of things that I don't get and a lot of things that I notice. Okay. And one of the things I notice is that good teachers keep things simple and understandable, where terrible teachers get caught up in jargon, lesson bloat, and expectation of mastery from their students. Okay, those three things. Blah. You know, if you ever sign up for a martial arts class, you are going to be doing three things. Okay, three things in your first couple of one-on-one lessons. Honestly, you're going to be doing 3 or 4 things forever. But the main things you're going to be doing are stances, push-ups, blocks. That is what you're doing over and over and over and over and over. And I don't care what style of martial arts. It'll be go into horse stance. I'm going to go get a sandwich. You stay there, you know, and then they come back. Good. Now go into front stance. Now I'm going to go watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You best be like that when I come back, you know, and you're going to sit there going, and in your head, you signed up because you want to run up walls and jump and do that spinny thing on the side. And you want to look like Donnie Yen or Jet Li or Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee. I don't care what generation you're in. Boom, you're just stuck there. Okay, that's what you want to do, but this is what you're doing. But they're keeping those things simple. They're being simple with the fundamentals. Okay, you can't stand properly. You can't punch. And chances are you're going to need to block a lot more than you're going to be throwing punches and kicks and wrestling with people. And that's where you stay. Now, when it comes to teaching games, you look at the thing that people are going to do most. Okay. Let's take D&D 5th edition. I know a lot of people are getting off that train right now, and we're going to talk about that on Thursday. But the fact is, if you're teaching 5th edition, if you're playing 5th edition, you're going to do 2 things more than anything else. And that is perception check. You know, look, what do you see? What do you notice? You know, now perception, number 1. Oh, yeah, boxing. Yep. Stance and basic footwork. Back, forth, right, left. Yes, sweet science. Seriously. You know, that and jab. Jab comes next. You wait. You know. But yeah. The most common check in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is perception. What do you see? Do you see if there's a trap? Do you see if there's somebody behind the thing? What do you see? What are you're looking around, and what do you see? This is before initiative. This is before persuasion. This is before anything else. So when I teach Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, I start with persuasion, or not persuasion, but perception. Okay. I describe the scene and I'm like, do you have any questions? Well, what does that thing look like? Okay, roll the perception check. There you go. That's it. Okay, that is when it comes down to playing. When it comes down to creating a character, you got to teach them what the stats mean. 3 mental, 3 physical. That's it. You know, strong, fast, hardy, believable, smart, or wise. Difference between smart and wise, real simple. Your wisdom is your applied knowledge, what you understand about the world. Your intelligence is based on what you've studied and how well you can understand it. That's it. That's all. I just went through all 6 stats of D&D in less than a minute. All right. And I also went through the main stats of Pathfinder in a minute. That's it. All right. Now, the third thing that you're going to need, okay, and this is like that top tier of all the teacher's handbook, is patience. You know how I said the things that bad teachers do that turn off students or make their lessons ineffective are too much jargon, okay, lesson bloat, okay, teaching too much too fast, and the expectation of mastery in their students. Okay, no, you got to be patient. Every time I teach anything, I smile at my student and I say, you know what? You're going to ask me the same question over and over and over again and not realize it, because you're going to ask it in 4 or 5 different ways. And I'm going to keep answering until you get it, you know? And the biggest thing, yeah, and the biggest thing, they're like, no, I don't do that. Sure enough. Wait, so I roll a D20? Yes, you roll a D20. Okay, so I want to look around and see this. Can I do that? Yeah. Well, can I do this? Yeah. Can I do that? Roll it. You know? Teaching is not suffering, okay? It really isn't. It can feel laborious sometimes, but watching a student actually get what you laid down, watching them pick it up and run with it, it's a joy that only teachers and parents really get. Okay, and if y'all got kids out there, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. But it takes patience. Your student is already impatient. They want to hurry up and get to the fun part. You can't be like that. One of y'all have got to be patient. Okay, and it's the job of the more experienced one to be patient. That's really tough. It's really tough in our day and age, where everything from every commercial on TV to most shows are telling you that you suck. Okay. I see all over the place. Oh, they're just using this as excuses, and sometimes they just don't get it, you know? And yeah, they're gonna give 100 excuses. They're students. Okay. If they're adults, they're so busy knowing everything that there's no room in their head to learn something. And if they're kids, they don't have a clue about how big the subject that you're showing is, let alone how big the world around them is. So they want to hurry up and be good at it, because that's the standard that they learned. From where, I wonder? Ain't attacking, just letting everybody know that I see them, because we're all part of this world, and the world doesn't do that big thing. So let's take a look at why I really want to like Warhammer 40K, and why it's so hard to learn. Okay, it's taken me a year of watching games to learn how a turn goes. But don't ask me to build a team, because there's so much bloat. Okay, so much bloat. I was watching a video earlier today on how to build your first team, and I like the Adeptus Custodes because they're gold and they have filigree and they look awesome, right? But then you got to pick a chapter, and then in that chapter you have to know what that chapter does that the other chapters don't. And if you pick something like a cool character from that chapter, it gets stuff from the other from some of the other chapters. And then every turn they go into like different battle stances, or they call them katas, but it looks like kata, so let's just call it a kata. They go into a different kata, but you can't use the same kata this turn that you did the last turn unless it's the second turn or third. And I'm like, shut up, you know, serious, just stop it. It's too much. It's too much money for too much rules bloat. And it took me forever to figure out how all these players knew what they had to roll. You know, when it comes to like a tabletop war game, I'm like, how do I hit them? What do I roll to hit them? How much damage do I do? Okay, that's the whole thing. You know, when it came to HeroClix, HeroClix is a super easy game. When you look at it, it's on a grid. There's a little foot symbol that says if they run or fly, and there's a number next to it that means how many squares they can go. That's it. Okay. And then you get into the color charts. You know, what colors mean what superpowers, and then how each superpower works with another, blah, 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 blah. And this is why when you want to learn HeroClix, and if you guys don't know how to play it, go up and talk to like a store owner or someone who teaches the game. And the first thing that they will do is they will teach you how to play the game with no powers. No powers. What do the symbols mean? What do the numbers mean? How do you roll the dice? It's that simple. Okay. But this leads me to one of the number one pitfalls that comes down to teaching people how to play. And this is where most of us gamers really drop the ball, okay? This is where we cover the football in grease and we try and catch it when somebody who's way stronger than us throws it as hard as they can over the shortest distance possible, all right? Too many gamers try and teach a new player how to win instead of teaching them how to play, okay? This is something that I didn't learn until college, which is the most important part of learning is learning the process, and the result will take care of itself. Okay, you'll win some, you'll lose some, but that's just it. Okay, and we do it for a lot of different reasons. Number one, sometimes we teach when we're not ready to, meaning we don't understand what we're teaching. We don't understand it ourselves. We focus so much on the shortcuts. On the quickest ways to victory, on the meta, on what's popular in the tournament scene, that we forget the basics of the rules because they've slipped into a place of unconscious competence. It's like, well, that's just common sense. How can that? And it's like, no. With good things, with good subjects, good games, the fundamentals make so much sense that they seem like common sense in retrospect. Okay, it's like the ending of a good mystery or the answer to a complicated puzzle. The answer is there all the time, and it's so simple that you're kicking yourself when you're finally told the answer. But getting there, getting to that place is always difficult, okay? And it's difficult because we forget the fundamentals, okay? We forget the basic stuff. We're so busy trying to turn backflips and run up walls that we forget how to stand. All right? And it's not a bad thing. It's not a fault. It's not a character flaw. All right? Put that ego aside. This isn't a character flaw. It's something that happens when we spend more time playing than teaching. It's just a thing, okay? It's a thing. That's all. You know, and if you don't believe me, I challenge you to this right now. All of you watching, take half a second, and I want you to think about how to do one of two things. And I mean mechanically. Mechanically, how do you walk or breathe? Okay. I'm sorry to tell you guys, if ever you've gotten involved in robotics or anything like that, there are 1,000 different calculations involved in walking, okay? But we don't think about that. We say, lift up your leg, put it down. But when you really get into the nitty-gritty, how do you lift up your leg? Well, an electrical system goes from your brain through your nervous system, and it hits your muscles tension, and it hits the nerves in your muscles, and then that sends a signal that tells your leg to lift up with this much weight, this much force, this distance against gravity, which you're actually fighting against. And if you don't believe me, try doing the same thing in a pool versus outside. There's so many different complications, but we already know. Okay, we already know. And so when we tell people how to jump, we tell them run and jump, or run and swing your leg and jump at the same time. It's a lot of different things, right? But the fact of the matter is there's a lot to it, and it can be overwhelming. All right. So we have to keep the fundamentals simple, but never, ever, ever overlook them. You won't have to tell someone how to roll dice, but you'll have to tell them which ones to roll. You know, with a lot of miniatures games, it's like you got to walk them through the stat block so that they know what their characters can do, or if they don't know, they know how to find out. Okay. You guys have watched me run games online, and I'll say, do this check. And the newer players would be like, how do I do that? Well, you look up your strength modifier and this skill modifier, you add them together and you add that to your die roll. Well, where do I find that? Character sheet, bottom left, underneath your stats. You know, and they go, oh, and I'm like, yeah, just keep looking there. Remember that spot. Because most people in this day and age are taught to feel stupid for not already knowing something that they've never been taught before. Okay, we take so many things for granted. And one of the things that I can't, oh, wow. Yeah. It makes me think of how when the internet first came out, I was like doing cartwheels. I'm like, finally, I have access to all the knowledge that mankind has ever put out. And then I realized, holy crap, I have access to all the knowledge that mankind has put out. And that comes, especially with people younger than me, with the assumption that not only can you Google it, but you already have. Aside, I had a fun talk with my kid the other day because my kid speaks in Tumblr, and I had to remind my kid that I didn't spend any time on Tumblr. I barely spend any time on social media. So words that they use in those spaces are not words that they use outside those spaces. And I didn't understand what they meant when they said something. And I'm like, I apologize for going 2 years 2 whole years thinking one thing about something you said and finally understanding what you meant by it. What I should have done is I should have engaged with you with when you said that. I should have asked why and what it means. Okay. But I assumed I knew what my kid was talking about. They assumed that I knew what they were talking about, and we just went on about our days, not knowing that much more about each other. And that's where the loss comes in. Now, when it comes to teaching games, okay, there's so much jargon that involves in games. And let me explain what jargon is, so that jargon as I use it isn't jargon, okay? They are words that are used in the context of what we are doing that are different from the way that the words are used outside of that environment, okay? There are also words that are specific to that environment that aren't used anywhere else, okay? The one thing that comes to mind when it comes to jargon, I have 2 words that come to mind when it comes to jargon, okay? Valence and aperture. Those are the 2 words, because outside of chemistry, you're not going to hear valence used in a sentence unless that sentence is explaining how valence is a word from chemistry. And aperture is for photography and filmmaking primarily, okay? And aperture is literally the mechanism in a lens that determines how big the eye opens. All right. But yeah, I mean, it really is. Your aperture is the thing that makes you go, it lets in light. It's the same thing that happens when your eyes get really dilated and not dilating. That's the aperture of your eye at work. Okay. So yeah. But there's so much jargon that people use, not realizing that the person that they're talking to is not from that world. It's not from that environment. And that type of thing, keeps people in a state of confusion. And when it comes to teaching anything, it's up to the teacher to remember that everyone, it used to be a small minority when I was a kid, but everyone is taught to feel bad for not knowing. You know, if I hear one more person say to someone in my presence, what do you mean that you don't know? It's like this expectation that a person knows everything. And it's like, look, if that person knew, and I used to say this to people when people are like, why am I taking this class? I already know, well, the teacher only says all this stuff that I know. I'm like, hurry up. And I'm like, if you already know everything they have to teach, why are you taking the class? Quit the class, take another one, And they're like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm like, yeah. So, you got to trust the person teaching you, and the person teaching you has got to understand, or the person that you are teaching, you have to understand that the person that you're teaching doesn't know everything. They don't know what it is that you're teaching them. If they did, you wouldn't need to teach it to them. All right? That's just, you know. Oh, yeah, Glenn Couch. You know what? I don't want to sound stereotypical, but I can tell that you're black. Because, yeah, it's the line I hear a lot is, why are you always asking me? Look it up. I won't always be here. Exactly. And it's like, well, thanks, Mom. You know, but, you know, yes, how many of us are sprung fully armed from Jupiter's brow? You know what? Athena didn't know everything either. See, yeah, we're talking on that mythological thing. See, we got a connection, you know. So yeah, when it comes down to teaching, all right, keep it simple. What is the fundamental piece of the game that these people will enjoy? Which of those fundamental principles will come up a lot? Okay, start there. Okay, for some people, when they teach games, the first thing they'll teach is combat. You know, a lot of people like to start with the most complicated bit of the game. And honestly, I find that tends to be more of a gatekeepy thing. Primarily because it comes down to that whole, if you can't take me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I'm like, dude, shut up. Make your worst better, okay? Starting with the most complicated thing is great when you're deciding what chores to do, but it's not great to do with teaching, because all it does to a lot of people is really discourage them. Okay. Now that doesn't mean don't start with something challenging. Okay. Sorry to tell you guys, but if you're new to the channel, games are a lot more complicated today than they were when I was growing up. We are light years beyond Sorry and Monopoly. Okay. We are orders of magnitude beyond tic-tac-toe. A lot of people like playing things that are complicated. And simple is a relative term. Real talk. I love Grimdark Future from onepagerules. It is exceedingly simple with a very low learning curve for a miniatures game. All right. It is not exceedingly simple with a small learning curve compared to doodling. Yeah, it has its complications. It only has one page of rules. Excuse me. But yeah, there's a lot about learning games that confound people, because a lot of people that aren't already gamers, they go in thinking Milton Bradley, you know, Parker Brothers. These are all companies that Hasbro has absorbed into their evil empire, by the way. You know, they go in thinking Monopoly. They go in thinking Sorry. They think, you know, spin the thing, move the figure, roll the dice, move the figure, that kind of thing. That's what they know. All right. And so you got to keep it simple while letting them know that they're hitting another level. It's another level of complexity, but it's also another level of reward, you know? Understand that as a teacher, you, in and of yourself, are bringing someone in to a place where they have almost infinite choice. You have to teach someone how to reconcile with that. Okay. Like I said, we live in a world that makes people feel bad for not knowing, but it also equates not doing things the way that they would do it with not knowing. That's just as bad, because the way they know to do things is the only way to do it. So do as you're told, right? And then you get into something like D&D. And again, I tell all my new players to work on not asking me permission for their character's sake. Can I? May I start a fight with the character? May I try and pick the lock? May I try and solve the puzzle? I'm like, don't ask me, dude. I'm just the narrator. Are you gonna make the roll? And they go, well, I've got so many possibilities. I'm not used to freedom, you know? And I don't make fun of them because of that, because I recognize it, you know? So that's a big thing. So keep it simple. Be patient. Teach them the fundamentals instead of teaching them how to win. All right? Hey, I got a new follower. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let me see here. I gotta double check who that was. Again, one of my screens is down, so yeah, this is all a bit of a thing. Oh, there we go. Yes, resume my journey. And above all other things, be patient. Okay? I know how hard it is. Hey, how's it going? Let's see. You've got Cal. All right, cool. Well, thank you. And I'm glad that you're here. I know how easy it is to think or get caught up in this idea that you're teaching them and you want them to be just as good because you're wanting someone to play with. But don't give away your own credit. You spent years getting there. Never forget that. Never, ever, 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 ever forget that it took you years to become as good as you've gotten. Good enough to teach, you know? So you have to have patience enough to let them become that good as well, you know? And here's the thing. If you're really good, if you're really patient, if you're really willing to put in that work, it won't take them as long as it took you because you have a guide. I don't know who said that, Cthulhu. We stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't know. But yeah, so when it comes down to teaching a game to a new player, okay? Again, write this down. Keep it simple, all right? Keep it simple. Bite-sized chunks. Do not, I believe it was Socrates that said the best way to make sure your student learns nothing is to show them everything. All right? Don't show them everything. Show them a piece. Okay? Again, there's a reason you do your stances, you do your blocks. And it's not just to make your thighs hurt. Okay? You know, keep it simple. Stick with the fundamentals. Second, yes, Call of Cthulhu said that. Be patient with your student. Do not expect them to to pick up what you're putting down the first time you say it. If that's how you were taught, then I challenge you to think back to how many times you actually did it. You know, I mean, real talk. All right. I know a lot of people, they're like, I'll show you the first time, I'll help you the second time, and the third time you on your own. And I'm like, who hurt you? I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get it. You know, I didn't get it. And it's like, well, you're fired. I'm like, that's funny because you walk this person through it over and over and over and over. Okay. It really is. I'm like, dude, stop. You know? So keep it simple. Be patient. 1 and 2, keep it simple. Be patient. Okay. Lower your own expectations of them so that you are patient with them. If they ask you 100 questions or the same question 100 times, they might get it on the 104th. You never know. Don't teach them how to win. Teach them how to play. Because the fact of the matter is if you teach them how to win, they'll feel good, but the first time that they lose, they are going to be crushed. And why are they going to be crushed? Because they won't know how it happened. And they won't know how it happened because they'll lose to someone who knows how to play. Sorry, you know. And then they'll be like, you didn't teach me how to play good and all that stuff. And unfortunately, they'll be correct. They'll be absolutely correct, because you didn't teach them how to play. You taught them how to win. And there is a huge gap between those things. Okay, I'll tell you, in my experience, especially in the tournament scene, I've seen a lot of people in the tournament scenes with hundreds of games that only play to win. They only know how to play, and they're always missing enjoyment. They say they're having fun, but I measure enjoyment. I measure joy and laughter at the table, and smiles, and in pleasant attitudes if they don't win. If they're actually beat, you know, are they mad? Well, I'm mad at myself, which means you're not having fun. Unless being mad at yourself is what you find fun. Tell me the truth about it. And most people are like, no. You see what I mean? So when all that stuff comes down to it, you know, when you teach people how to play, you give them more options to find fun. If you teach them how to win, if you teach them how to be competitive, the only fun they'll have is in competing and in winning. See what I mean? Whatever you teach them is what they're going to learn. All right? And this is a really big one. Now, I've talked about teaching, and I've talked a lot about behavior of teachers. And the reason for this is because your children, your students, your friends will only learn, or should I say, will initially and most deeply learn what it is you show them. This is why we all turn into our parents, guys. And trust me, I'm middle-aged, okay? I find myself doing stuff that I watched my mom do through 1979 through 1990. And I'm like, whoa, I got to scale that back. Okay? Because again, it's what I saw day in and day out. And this is what it was like to be an adult. All right. This is what being an adult is like. That was my first impression. That was my first thought. And that is what I fundamentally took into it. And the other half of it is what I fundamentally avoided. But either way, I learned adulthood from the adults around me. Okay. And sorry to tell you, but your adolescenthood is really like aping that and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. It's an old man talking to you about life. But yeah, so at the end of the day, guys, keep it simple. Be patient. Okay. Behave in a way that you want for them. If you want them to enjoy the game that you play, then you have to enjoy the game that you play in front of them. They have to see you enjoying it. If they don't see you enjoying it, why should they? Okay? And avoid jargon. All right? Again, that's part of keeping it simple. Okay? Teach them how to play the game simply. You're not going to teach them how to do it in one sitting. Okay? You can sit them down and teach them the fundamentals of a game and play the game on that level. Okay. And I've seen, like I said, way too many teachers teach someone the basics and then go off and just beat their student silly, and their student not understand what just happened. What did the student learn? They mainly learned that this game ain't fun. You know, and I'm not saying let them win, but what I am saying is don't take your A game to your student. You know, you increase the intensity of your play with the amount of progress that they show, not the amount of progress that you think they've gone, okay, or that you've expected them to be at this point. And that goes along with the fourth thing, okay? Put your ego aside. It's not about you. Okay, it's not about how good a teacher you are, how good a player you are. It's about whether or not your student can pick up what you're laying down. It's about whether you can transfer the fun that you're having to someone else. Okay. And the fifth thing, and this is the most important thing. If like all of the best teachers I've ever had, every single subject I've studied, and by the way, I still study for 2 hours a day. Okay. Every time I've sat down with any teacher or had a teacher, the best ones did this thing, and that's why I saved it for last. Listen. Okay? Listen to your students, because when you listen, you'll learn from them. You'll learn stuff that you didn't realize that you didn't know, and you'll learn how to be a better teacher. Okay? When you listen to your students, they will tell you what they don't understand. Just listen to them. Take it seriously. I found that some of the best lessons that I've ever had was when my students was telling me that they didn't know something, and I listened to them, and I was able to show them how they were incorrect. How they didn't know that they knew. And I listened to them, they listened to me, and fun was had for all. All right? So again, keep it simple. Teach how to play instead of winning. Be patient. Put your ego aside and listen. And if you do those 5 things, you'll be able to teach people so many games and open them up to a world of fun and joy that everyone imagines, but not everybody has been able to reach. All right. So with that, I gotta say major thanks to my people over here in my people over here in YouTube. You know, shout out to Nerd Soul. Go check out his channel, NERDSOUL, bringing you that street geek and that nerd soul, covering comic books, video games, and all that stuff. He's also one of the players at my table. Let's see, over here in Twitch, major thanks to Clever Little Vixen holding it down like gravity, Oella, Ox2, Alisadra, Ashley, Black and White Now in Color, Card of Cthulhu, Commander Root, Draft Snatch, I'm sorry, just testing, Is Nickable, Jesse Blakeney, Neon Knight 13, Xanathades, major shout out to our new listener, our new person that's here, who was it? I gotta get that name back. You've Got Cal. Thank all of you guys for being here. And if you got any questions or comments, especially questions about our merch or anything like that, t-shirts, hats, posters, all that jazz, just send me an email at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at backinthedeck. Same one, BACKINTHEDECK. Also on the Instagrams. Follow us over on TikTok. You know, and if you're part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy, but want to know what we're up to, what we're making, and the stuff that some of our deckers have for sale, head on over to Deckers on the Book. All right. And if you guys appreciate what I do here and like all that stuff, then I appreciate it. Join our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. But if you're not up for a major commitment like that, and I get it, because who wants another bill every month, right? Then all you got to do is head over to this donation thing and send us a one-time donation through our PayPal. I just put that up in the chat. So just, head over there and show a little love, Also, if you don't have the money, or if you're under 18 and you don't want to go ask your parents, I get it. Then head on over to our YouTube site. All right, our YouTube site, just look for Solar Gray or Back on the Deck, or today's episode was called Teaching How to Play, and just Solar Gray Teaching How to Play, and today's video will pop up, and all you got to do is subscribe and share the video with your friends. Okay, we're only at 228 subscribers, and as much as I want sponsors, they don't listen until you've got 10,000 million, and YouTube is changing all over the place. So Patreon and donations are how we keep the lights on and keep these computers plugged in the same way that I have to go out now and I got to get another monitor, since the one that I talked to you guys with here is no longer working. So I've got to replace that thing. That's how it goes. But with that, go out there, play some games, be good to each other, share the joy of stuff that you have, and also leave the door open to learn the joy from other people. Okay, that way they get your joy, you get their joy, more people, more joy. It's all good. It's all happy stuff. You know, families get together, cats and dogs can live together. It won't be total anarchy, you know. And again, just be good to each other. And if somebody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, your disabilities, or your budget, or your neurodivergencies, or whatever, you can just tell all those people to take those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, saying thank you. And I'm going to do something a little different today, which is I'm going to leave you with one of the things that we are working on here at Back in the Deck Studios. Yeah, just, you know, showing you one of the makes that we got. And I want to do that every once in a while just to be like, hey, this is the stuff that we're working on. Yeah, so this, you know, call it a moment of Zen. Or at least that's what they used to call on The Daily Show. So with that, I got to say thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you next time on The Dark Side of the Room.
Hey, how's it going?
There we go. All right. Yeah, my mic's working. Okay. Good to finally see you in person, man. Now,
Hey, good to see you, man.
if I'm looking in this direction, it's because the screen that I normally have here is dead, and I'm trying to set
You're
up
good.
another one. Yeah, it's a thing. It is truly a thing. Um.
Yeah,
So
I'm typing right here while I'm writing, so it's all good. I'm just trying to keep up to date with everything.
okay. Um. Mode. Mode. Come on. Where's the HDMI stick? Aha. Hey, look at that. Now let's see if I can get this going over here. Oh, wait, is that? That's there. Okay. Well, that's a little something. Yeah, a little something, something. Now let's see if I can set this up proper. And, wait. Did it again. So, yeah. All right. So, um, did you open that Google document? Okay. All right. Well, while we're at this, so what is our outline looking like? Number one.
So right now, I wanted to start off with
Mm-hmm.
um Kratos, then to Kratos asking having like with with the interview person asking a question about his interaction with Thor, and goes back to the interview, and then we have another flashback with the goddess Aphrodite um, wanting him in the chambers. And so I'm thinking like something like um, just talking about his relationships with Aphrodite, just as a follow up question in the interview. And we can do like alluding to just like a groundwork type thing where there's like robes on the ground. That, back to the looking for, and then we have him and young Arteris um, in a style where it looks like that's where he wants to end it off.
Okay.
So,
All right. There we go. I hope that's better.
oh, you're good, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, thing one. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the interview? Um, or with the flashback? Like which of these scenes really grabs you?
So I'm thinking that like the big scenes are going to be like um with Arteris because it's the it's like sex scene goddesses. I think it's just going to be alluding where we can make it where it's like maybe like a minute.
Okay.
Just have the robes leading up to it, and then see them in bed. We don't see like anything but them like covered up with the sheets or whatever. And then that's all we would write.
Okay.
So we don't get too explicit with it.
All right.
Um,
Okay. So let's start with the future thing with him talking with Atreus. What kind of a conversation do we want them to have? I mean, it's going to be a father-son conversation, but there are 100.
Chris, that's how you put it.
Mm-hmm.
Happy that you fixed that for me because I've barely played the game. So I'm
Oh,
like,
don't worry about it. Believe it or not, I haven't played any of them. I've just watched the movie edit cutscenes on YouTube.
Okay.
I was priced out of video games decades ago. But yeah. So when it comes down to their relationship, have you watched the playthroughs of both games?
I'm going to need
Okay.
the big thing.
All right.
To understand the relationship.
Yeah, their relationship is nice and complicated.
Yeah.
All right, so but not a big thing. Essentially in the first one, yeah, let me give you a quick synopsis. In the first God of War game that featured Atreus, well, how much do you know about the God of War story to start with?
No.
Okay. All right, so you know his you know Kratos' overall thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, let me sum up the next bits of the franchise. 1, 2, skip a few. Kratos kills all the gods in Greece. Okay. This causes a really big problem because the gods are gone, which means there's nobody looking over the stuff that the gods were doing. There's nobody doing the gods' jobs. Kratos' response to this? Run to Norway. Run to Norway, put all the fighting behind him, get married, start a new family. Now, he married a frost giant. And she was awesome. At least so we've heard, because the game after part 3, with bearded Kratos, is his wife has died. She's dead. And her last wish was that he take Atreus to the tallest mountain in Jotunheim to spread her ashes from the tallest mountain. Okay? That is that first game. Now here's the thing. Kratos started a family, yes. Okay? But he's not exactly a hands-on dad. Because at his core, he's still a Spartan. So everything he knows is war, harshness, angry, all that stuff. So the first game is essentially a road trip movie between father and son where they get to know each other. And this is when Atreus finds out that he too is a god. Except he's 11, which means he's an insufferable little shit about it.
Gotcha.
Okay? But this is important. That road trip movie is beset with obstacles. The number one obstacle is they're being pursued by Balder. Now, do you know much about Norse myth?
Yeah, no, a little bit.
Okay, so this is Balder the Bold, or Balder the Brave, okay, chasing down Kratos because you know how his mom, Freya, essentially made a deal with the world, asking everything out there to not do her son harm?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in the game, this manifests as his nerve endings not working. He doesn't feel anything physically. And he's miserable for it. So he's looking for somebody to kill him. So that he can feel something. Anything. So of course, he goes to Kratos. It also turns out that he needs to sacrifice a god or beat a god in order to get the curse lifted, yada, yada, yada. So that's what he's doing. Over the course of this, Atreus finds out that he too is a god because his dad is a god. Get it? So he spends the rest of the game being a kid trying to be like, you know, what he thinks his dad is like. And his dad is going, don't do that. I'm a dick. Well, how are you a dick? I ain't gonna tell you. Don't worry about that. That ain't for you to know. So they bond, they get to know each other. Freya ends up being one of their allies. Atreus is an archer. He finds himself with an arrow made of mistletoe, and he and Kratos essentially kill Balder. This pisses Freya off to no end, because although her son was a dick and a villain and all of that stuff, he was still her son. And the game ends with Freya saying, "I'll get you for this," and them making it to the top of the mountain, spreading the ashes, and Atreus and Kratos finding the prophecy of who Atreus is and what his future holds. And it turns out Atreus is Loki. Yes, Loki, as in Tom Hiddleston and all that other shit. Okay. Enter the most recent game. The further adventures of Boy and Black Papa. And the joke, and we have to put this in, is Kratos very rarely calls Atreus by his name. He's always boy. Boy, boy. Don't do that, boy. You scared away the elk, boy. You know, it's always boy.
Yeah.
Okay. In the second game, as Atreus is growing up, it becomes the equivalent of mama saying your whole name. So it's, yes, Atreus, blah, blah, blah. Boy. Oh, boy. You know, type of thing. So, but Atreus sets out on his own because he's a teenager now. And essentially the second one is Thor sends his sons and himself in. He sends his son to Kratos' house because essentially Balder was his brother. And he's like, yo, you killed my brother. There is going to be some shit about that. And then Kratos fights and does what Kratos does and kills Thor's sons. And then Thor pops up, and at the 30-minute mark, Odin pops up on the door saying, hey, you killed one of my sons. Let's talk. And then shenanigans. I'll see what I can do on finding a link to the whole thing. It's like 3 hours long, so it's like watching a movie. And because this is where our script is going to pick up after that game. Okay. Because over the course of that game, Atreus, starts to become a man and starts to come into his own. Yada yada, coming of age stories, all that stuff. And Kratos starts to see him as himself. Now, in the first game, they come across a big tapestry full of prophecy because, it's a fantasy thing. And one of the prophecies explains Kratos' death. And Atreus is like, no, I just got to know this guy. So he's looking for a way to prevent his father's death. And Kratos is like, dude, gotta go. I'm surprised I lived this long. And so Atreus spends a lot of time in the game trying to figure out a way to prevent that without telling his dad that he's trying to prevent it. Teenager shit. But Odin is doing what Odin does because Odin is actually more of a trickster than most other gods. And by trickster, I mean liar. One of the best lines in the second book was Mimir, the severed head, who was the old Norse god of wisdom. When Odin showed up, he's like, Odin is here. If he tells you that the sky is blue, or if he tells you that snow is white, it's a lie. Seriously. Because Mimir is a severed head because of fucking around with Odin. So everybody that makes a deal with or who interacts with Odin ends up on the shitty end of the deal. From Freya to Mimir to everyone. And so Odin is like, hey, Atreus, you should come work for me, buddy. I'll train you up in how to be a god and all that other stuff. So, but Atreus in this game has to learn to make his own decisions and all that jazz. Okay. Now I have to double check the ending because I'm not sure how it ended. But It definitely ends with the father-son mutual respect type thing at the end. Okay.
Yeah, because he way that Rose went like a light ending.
Okay. What? That it was the Bible the whole time?
Looks like it's wasteland again.
Right.
That's just like the
Mm-hmm.
like what he thinks is like if as of guys out in the wasteland that were looking at the wasteland as if it's like a never ending hellscape.
Honestly, it's probably that. It's probably that what he's thinking. But truth be told, that is the better ending. Also cheaper to film. Yeah. So let's focus there. But that means everything we're doing is kind of a flashback. So now the fight scene with Thor, that won't require much writing because they fight.
Well, I'm in a lot of insults up to a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to like how they talk to each other and because like the big what would Thor be saying? Vice versa.
Okay.
And post break fight and cut right back into so it's gonna be like a hard cut from and boom.
Okay. So we need to write a scene where Kratos and Thor are talking shit to each other. Good. That will be easy. Have you seen the 13th Warrior?
I've seen it. Is that the one with
Yes. All right. That movie shows a lot of what's important in Norse culture because it's essentially a Spaniard is kicking around and Beowulf is happening around him. All right. So things that are important to Thor. One, people remembering his name and his deeds. Because that's huge in the 13th Warrior. Or that's huge in Norse culture. Okay? It's not just about who you are, but what you did. Everything's about renown. Okay? So that being the case, Thor, renown is really important to Thor, so every place that he insults Kratos from is going to come from there.
yeah, I think it's gonna be like well, he wants it to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
break it up.
All right. So how long should the shit talking be? Are we doing 2 pages, 1 page?
Oh.
Okay. All right. So let's knock that out. It seems fun. So, important things to the Norse being remembered. That's number 1. Now, who initially starts the shit talking? That is an important question. First off, how do they come across each other? Now, what we know is that in game, Thor's daughter and Atreus are now friends. Even though they killed Odin, Thor's dad, and the granddaughter's grandmother, or Thor's daughter's grandfather, the kids are friends.
Do they have any interaction before kids?
Those two? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thor's daughter and Atreus don't become friends until like Act 3.
Yeah, because the second act of short film, um, son's mom.
Wait, with sleeping with whose mom? Okay, so that's a flashback to the marriage. Okay, that's going to be a hard one. Because, well, it was a happy marriage. Like, Kratos was actually happy, and we're not used to that.
Yeah.
And that means we've got to characterize the wife. Ooh, boy.
Because, so, what happens is, the first flashback is
Mm-hmm.
second, I'm in the bedroom with
Okay. So, this is writer to writer. The fight between Thor and Kratos. Who throws the first punch?
I think that we should, or would be after first.
Okay.
That way we're as like an antagonist.
Okay.
Even though Kratos is.
Okay. So, what would drive Thor to punch? There are a couple of things. In the game, Thor has a drinking problem. And he drinks because of his daddy issues. So, final insult has something to do with Thor being a drunken disappointment, or Thor being drunk because of his daddy issues. So, I didn't have a father. Did you? Okay, this is going to be fun. Because
It's always interesting, right? I shoot some video, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right.
I think, like, a big, and, like, walk in, be like a bar scene.
Mm-hmm.
Just walking into the bar and, Kratos drink.
We never actually see Kratos drinking. At least not in any cutscenes. But there is a theme, and I'm thinking it might be good for us to stick to the theme of people going to Kratos' house to fuck with him. Matter of fact, that can kind of lead to a recurring gag that's almost a meme. Which is, why do we still live here? Ooh. What if Thor goes to Kratos' house? being protective of his daughter. Like, you know, because they're teenagers, you know, and Atreus and Thor's daughter hanging out. Everybody knows what we think. So, you know, the tell your son to stay away from my daughter type thing. How does that sound?
I like that. I like that.
Okay. All right. Now, things that would make Thor mad.
Yeah, like drunken.
Yes. Yes, rage from the booze hall. And
like all like or something
okay.
where it's like still
Okay.
where it shows that he like had time the idea.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. And this opens the door for Kratos to be stoic and Kratos-like with the, Thor, you're drunk again.
And with him having daddy issues that like his father did that they're close like and where he like here for
Mm. I like that. I like that. And I think one of the things that would drive Thor to hit would be Kratos saying something super cruel. Like, I don't know. Ooh. Let's see. Something super cruel would it would have to it would really have to grab Thor by the feels in the not as much in the what did you say about my mama type way, but in the let's see. I don't know.
like daughter would be better.
No, that's no, one, that's too easy. And two, that's not something that would make a drunken Thor throw hands. However, ooh, slur, 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 blah, 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 blah. Oh. Why are you really here, Thor? Like, Thor, why are you really here? Is it because you're afraid that you'll be as bad a father as you had? I think that should come after Thor really Kratos really dressing him down. Just
right now Thor line right with the drink.
mm-hmm.
He's angry that his daughter's there. It really like puts that full flesh attack like fuck up as that was.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're trying to push him to the real Bobby Boucher.
I think that fight scene that like why is it what sets off what brings us point like why the internet question was gas like why did you all break into the fight or interview people ask things I already know the answer. I know
Ah, okay.
as far as the goddess like in the sex scene goes, I think that's like an act piece where it's writing about like Kratos walks in like like romance like over the ground and leading up all these different robes and whatnot. Um, Plays there in the bed and then like cut shot. That's what I would do. That's simple, like writing that way we don't.
right.
Um, I think that second flashback, third flashback, or whatever he's trying to understand. Have with this.
Okay. So the father-son thing. If this is going to end with Kratos by himself, it needs to be not as much the passing of the torch as much as confirmation that the torch will be passed. They have a conversation like that in the game already. Because by the end of the second game, Kratos sees Atreus as a man.
And I'll probably just watch that and pick up how they're like dialogue wise. Set it off because Burrow was on Kratos at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just do it as a dialogue. Kratos looking out into like the like forever and also like forever behind. Just the big oblivion where he's like possibly ready to move.
Okay. That being the case, parent to child, moving on. A parent really wants two things for their kid. Thing one, they want to know their kid's going to be okay. And number two, they want their kids to be better than they were. And that's where all fear, like that's where all scoldings and all that stuff comes from. Be okay. Be physically okay. And be a better person than I am. That came out in Spider-Man Homecoming. I was trying to be like you. I need you to be better. So
I think this is where we're going to
yeah. Well, we need to write something for other directors to say this is where Jarrell became a movie star. The Bruce Willis in Die Hard when he's in the bathroom talking to Al. Okay. So that means since we know the fundamental things, the human story of what every parent wants for their kid to be okay and to be better. We want to write a tearjerker. We have to write it from the perspective of a dying man having accomplished it. Okay. So let's see. Now, in the story, in and of itself, Atreus is trying to save Kratos' life. He's trying to undo the prophecy. That's one of his major story arcs. And Kratos is fighting him on it because in order for Kratos to undo in order for Atreus to undo the prophecy and save Kratos, he may die in the process, and Kratos doesn't want that. So, I'm getting very much a Hawkeye Natasha, a very Clint Natasha type feel from Endgame. When they're on Vormir. So, that's where we're at. Are you taking notes on this?
I am.
Good. I'm like, one of us should be. All right. So, the monologue or the dialogue between the two should be, "No, Dad, I have to save you." And Kratos saying, "No, son, you have to live." "I'm at peace with my fate. You need to get that way too." And how about the reason that he's okay with his fate is because Atreus will be okay. He will be better. He already is better. And Kratos knows it, but Atreus doesn't. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Um, there should be stuff in there about Atreus not wanting to lose his father, and Kratos being okay with it because he to Atreus has been more of a father than any Spartan boy gets with his father. Because, you know, Spartans didn't have much family time. You know. So Kratos is a dude that didn't have a father of his own, who ended up being a father, much to his dismay, kind of accidentally. And he's doing an okay job. And if he's saying "let me go," that means he realizes that he's doing that he did an okay job, and that he's done. Atreus is a man. Now, here's the question: who wins the argument? If we go in that direction, the argument is, I don't want to let you go, but you have to let me go. It's the only way you can be a real man. That's the argument. Who wins the argument, Kratos or Atreus?
I think at that point, thought, and
Ooh.
that being said, if Pharrell wants to with like doing a second short film that, but what happened leaves the audience in like
Okay. Yeah, stretch out that dramatic tension. Yeah, stretch out the dramatic tension. Okay. So we have to make it a good argument. So far, we've got Kratos arguing with two people, Thor and Atreus. Now, we're going to leave it on if we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger, then we have to leave it on Atreus making a really good point. Not an argument winning point, but at least with the audience going, you know what? No, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. I wonder what Kratos says in response. Okay. Got to think about that. Do you have any other things that you've read or watched that has scenes like that we can look at for reference?
um a lot of the things
Mm.
but it would be almost the phrase, where he is saying like if it's like a so it could the like that needs that never like there's so much more that could be done. It's almost like for I commit
Mm-hmm.
and then people that were
Mm.
thought obviously so that opening that leads on to if we make a second one, the second option, or it's much deadline. Like walk out that cliff. Always one.
Mm. The answer to that question is frighteningly obvious. Yeah, it is. It really is. Okay, all right. I'm seeing the answer. And if we have the answer, we might be able to work our way backwards. Okay? All right. So, Kratos has successfully taught Atreus to be a man. Okay? But there is one thing, or there are two things out there. One thing he hasn't taught Atreus, and one thing he hasn't learned. Oh, this is good. This is good. And the answer to that doesn't have to be right now, but it is an eventuality. You ready for this? You did well teaching me how to be a man. But one day, I'll need to learn to be a father.
Okay.
And if Kratos dies, he'll never learn to be grandfather. Yeah. And there it is. That's the thing. But no, I have to keep you alive because there's one thing that you still have to teach me. Cut.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay? And even and even if we and we can even cut to Kratos going, and I still haven't learned, I still don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And even have Mimir's severed head in the back laughing, going, it looks like you have two things left to learn.
Exactly. I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Because it's just leaves you with so much question, and people can take on our time and our film.
But the answer is obvious. So you get the people going, ha, I was right when we write the follow-up. But it's also emotionally gut-wrenching.
Okay.
I also know personally it will kick the shit out of Jarrell. And that's our job.
Right. I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the second flashback. When he, the other two flashbacks, tell the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
This question are after that.
Right.
So that leaves us into the opening.
Okay. All right. So yeah. But now, let's juxtapose these two argument scenes. With the argument with Thor, Kratos never loses his cool. Or should I say, he never raises his voice. Yeah. Like, he'll have that Kratos intensity, that type of thing when Thor is getting on his nerves. But with Atreus, he yells. Yeah, this is starting to flow now. Atreus is making his argument, and Kratos is saying, he's yelling, and he finally yells, "There's nothing left for me to do. I've wrecked things, I've done this, I've done all that stuff. I'm ready to go. There's nothing left, and I have nothing left to teach you." And then Atreus yells back, and then he turns to stomp off and says, "And there's still one thing. And there's still one thing that you have to teach me." But yeah, it's heated. Because that gives the audience the impression that no one can get under Kratos' skin as much as Atreus can. Like, Atreus knows him better than anybody else. And the only person that can really push him to that point at this point in his life has been Atreus. Like in the first game, Kratos didn't exactly speak to Atreus as much as he yelled at him. Again, the meme was, "Oh, God of War? You mean Dad of Boy?" You know.
Definitely gonna pick this game back up after.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find this, because there's a scene that's making all this flow from one of my favorite movies. And I'll send you a link to it because it's a 5-minute scene. I can't still be live, can I?